It's the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and you want to know what the sixth sense is. Now, Kabbalah speaks about an additional sense, and since we have 5 senses of perception, according to human biology, according to the science of human biology so far, it means that there is an additional organ of perception that is available to us, but not necessarily within our regular realm of perception or within our created nature. It means there's something additional. And that's not the same thing as the general term, the sixth sense, because the difference has to do with what exactly is being measured by that sense. What will that sense do for us? I mean, we have 5 fingers. What good is it for us to have an additional finger? What do we gain by that? The way we normally think about the sixth sense is some kind of supernatural quality, a kind of a superpower that is a gift to some people and not to others. And what is that sense measuring? Well, psychics sense the feelings of others, the possible outcomes to questions that people have in the present. What's going to happen in the future? There's all kinds of things like that, fortune telling and so on, that are connected to all of that. And actually, that is not an additional sense. That's actually a combination of the 5 senses, but with a magnification. It's like taking a microscope or a telescope to our sensations and being able to, blow them up and really see in detail something that's there. It's heightened sensitivity of the 5 senses. It's natural. There's nothing above nature about that quality. It's a kind of a talent or sensitivity that some people have, or that can be developed in certain ways, but it's not something that has anything to do with spirituality, because it's dealing with the forces that work within human nature. It can be predictive because human nature has a certain mechanical form, and it's possible to see where the robot is going to go because it's being operated. Basically, our 5 senses operate us in a kind of an operating system that has all to do with our own well-being. And I've spoken about this before. This is the limitation, really, of human awareness. This is the part of us that is a seed yet to become something spiritual. Now, to be sure, spirituality is something that is outside of the quality of the 5 senses that we have now. It is an additional sense that works on a completely different operating system, on a completely different premise. So what is it that the Kabbalistic additional sense is measuring? It's measuring something that we don't sense at all now, because we don't really have any kind of context of where we are. We draw the limitations of what life is, what this world is, what we can expect, and what we call reality according to the egoistic, self-directed operating system of the 5 senses. This additional sense measures something above us, that gives us the context of where we are and why we're here and what we're here to do. It measures something that we don't feel at all. What we don't realize is that we live in a sea of light, and that there's a quality that Kabbalah calls light that surrounds all of human experience, both the individual and the collective experience. And actually there is no individual experience. it's really a collective experience, but that has to do with something that we begin to sense when we acquire this additional sense. So there's light all around us. What is light? Light is a quality of giving. We are constantly in a mode of receiving everything that we have at every single moment, but it doesn't appear that way to us. It appears like there are all these separated parcels of things that come and go. There is desire, and there is scarcity, and there's the fulfillment of a desire and the overcoming of momentarily of scarcity. And we see all of these separated objects without a context. They all exist here in the world, the things that we love, the things that we desire, the people that we care for, the objects that make us happy. But we don't see their origin. We don't see their true nature. What we're not perceiving is that this giving and receiving is a constant factor for us. But we don't see the constant bestowal that comes to us because we don't see the higher context. We don't feel that there actually is light. So we feel alternately good and bad according to our basic operating system, and whether we feel that we are receiving what we desire or not, when the fact is that we are constantly receiving. You know, we see the world as a place where we go around picking up this and that. Like you go to a store, and there's nobody there. There's no shopkeeper there. And you can go through all the aisles and take absolutely everything you need, and that all seems fine. That's exactly what we would like. We'd like to win some kind of contest where you can have like a $10,000 shopping spree and you just take all of this stuff. So what do you get out of that? Well, apparently you get stuff, but what you don't get is you don't get a sensation of the context of life, what those objects are, what you are, and why anything happens. And we're left with the experience of life as a somewhat random experience. The fact is that there is a shopkeeper there, and that there's a constant tally on what's going on. Everything that we receive is actually given to us for a purpose, and we cannot perceive that purpose. Why is that loan being made? And how do we pay that back? In other words, what's the purpose of us being in a place where we are in constant reception? And how do we alter our perception of this so that we can see direction, purpose, and context? When the shopkeeper's not there, or we think that they're not there, we don't feel anything but the desire to fill up our cart with the things on the shelf. When we realize as a reality that there is this constant giving, that there is the shopkeeper, so to speak, now we're in relation with something. There is a sensation that we feel in relation to knowing that somebody is giving all of this to us. It evokes in us something that we really undervalue, devalue, don't understand, and think that it's for some other purpose. And that is a sensation that we call shame. There is a giver, and this one is constantly giving, and I am constantly receiving. Now, something starts to hit us. It's not like there's no quality there to the giving. There's no anything there. Yes, there is something, and we are in relation to this giving, and we begin to feel a kind of sensorial experience, a sensation. And this sensation is called shame. We think it's there to make us feel bad. It's actually a tool of measurement. So there's a barrier. There is a barrier between unlimited bounty and scarcity, suffering, hunger, need, and self-defensiveness, the disregard of the larger system. In order to attain an additional sense, a sixth sense, one has to erect a sensor that is not in the physical realm, but one that's in the same realm as the giving realm. The giving realm is a realm of intention. And in order to be able to feel this sensor, one has to have an intention not to receive any of these things directly without receiving it in order to fulfill the giver. Putting this in very general terms, the most important thing about it is that it is an intention, it's a decision. This decision allows us to feel, one, that there is a giver, two, that there is giving, and that we, below, are interacting with this giving because this decision will be pushed at by the upper force. It'll push against our nature, and our nature will wish to equalize with that, and it will eventually begin to perceive the real meaning and purpose of the giving and the usefulness of the receiving, and it will eventually free us from this barrier and limitation. We will be able to sense the thought behind why we are being given. And the measure that we have, that gauge that we have once that we have established this intention, this line between the upper light, this extra sensor, that gauge of shame is actually made of the difference between our intention at any given moment in relation to what we are receiving, the difference between that and the intention with which the gift is being given from above. Everything's being given. We think we do, but we don't actually do. What we do is we receive. That's our nature. We were created that way. There's nothing we can do about it. We cannot change the fact that our created nature is opposite to that of the light. Even an external act of giving is still something we receive and ultimately aim to benefit from. So the deciding factor isn't that we're bound to receive, but how we receive. The direction of the intention with which we do receive, for whom and for what. That determines both the scope of our awareness and the well-being of all the aspects of nature still waiting to be in our conscious care. Our intentions are purposely concealed from us by the ego, which is beyond tricky. Their correct use never comes to mind in this world, not even in our imagination. But if we want to be able to perceive the spiritual quality, the real sixth sense, then we have to make our inner nature like that of the light. But you can't do that with ideas. You have to do it with sensation. You have to do it with a sensor, with an organ of perception. Now, the difference between an idea and a sensation is honesty. But it's beyond honesty. It's like really bottom line stuff. For instance, we know how we should respond to certain things, and we think what a good person is and how a good person should think. But that is not enough. It's not enough to have rules and ideals and simply try to live up to rules and ideals. What we're trying to do is to have a sensation that is the same as the sensation of the upper light that acts on us and gives to us. And there is a maxim in Kabbalah that says, what cannot be attained cannot be named. In other words, philosophy and ideas do not make spiritual perception. For instance, if you see some unfortunate event, a tragedy that occurs, a big building burns down in your neighborhood, and there are casualties, and there's couple of deaths there. Or there's a shooting, a mass shooting. Everybody says, this is terrible, this is bad, and they start decrying it, and they try to come up with all kinds of ways that we could overcome this. Okay, everybody leaps to that. But if you happen to be somebody who is a builder and gets the contract to fix that building or rebuild that building that was burnt down, regardless of what you say you should be feeling, you will also and rather be feeling the good fortune that has reached you. Which one of those is it? I'm now going to make a profit of several $100,000, and it's bad that this happened to people. The real sensation at every given moment is the thing that we're measuring. The difference between true sensation, true attainment, our actual nature, and the nature of the light. If we can learn to do that, and it does take training, then we can begin to sense the difference between us and the light. If we're fooling ourselves, we're never going to perceive anything but nice ideas. So the sixth sense is the ability to feel the light pressing on us and feel the variance, just like a diaphragm in the ear or pressure in touch, or light waves striking retina, any of those things. This is exactly the same principle, but it's on the level of intention. The development of a correct intention and feeling the actual spiritual shape of things that is reaching us rather than their physical appearance, that comes through the development of this additional sense. So that's just a general description of something that exists in our nature that we don't understand. We just don't give weight to it. And also, we can't use it because we lose track of it. We start in one place, we think we're aiming at it, and then we lose the next part of it. It's like if you're going to do a painting, you have to secure it on an easel, or every time you apply a brushstroke, you're going to knock the canvas over and it's going to smear. And that's what happens to us. And that's why we have to understand that there is a context for all of this. Again, context. And that is the larger methodology of attaining this additional perception, being able to hold it, stabilize it, allow it to grow. And I notice in the comments that I get that people pick out this, that, or the other thing, and they give their criticisms, which is fair, but it's indicative of something that maybe is important for the person who's criticizing to understand. And I saw today this really great post by a viewer called Infostats, and I want to read it to you because it's like beautifully said. He says, "Wow, so many comments and questions that sound like lawyers and politicians. This isn't about answering one-liners. People are taking one line from a poem and using that one line to argue about whether the poem is any good. Kabbalah is a system of understanding human existence. If you already know more than what Kabbalah has to offer, then share it with humanity, please. Would you discount a symphony because you don't happen to understand why a certain flute passage was constructed the way that it was, and therefore you won't listen to the symphony? If so, no spiritual path is really for you. You don't expose yourself to spiritual knowledge because you already know it all, and you're looking for something that agrees with your sentiments. If you're looking for something that already makes sense to you, then you're moving sideways. If you know arithmetic, but you're complaining that algebra or calculus doesn't make sense, what are you really saying?